The drug war alone has decimated communities from coast to coast. Nearly 2/3 of the increase in our federal prison system and more than half of the increase in the state prison system between 1985 and 2000, driven by drug convictions alone. Drug convictions increased by more than 1,000% since the drug war began. I mean, to get a sense of how large a contribution the war on drugs has made to mass incarceration, consider this. There are more people in prisons and jails today just for drug offenses than were incarcerated for all reasons in 1980. Now, most Americans violate drug laws in their lifetime. Most do. But the enemy in this war has been racially defined. Not by accident, this drug war has been waged almost exclusively in poor communities of color, even though studies have consistently shown now for decades that, contrary to popular belief, people of color are no more likely to use or sell illegal drugs than whites, or sell. Now that defies, many people's basic stereotypes about who a drug dealer is. You picture a drug dealer in your mind, and who do you see? If you're like most Americans, you picture some black kid standing on the street corner with his pants sagging down. And plenty of drug dealing happens in the hood, but it happens everywhere else in America as well. Drug markets, much like American society generally, are fairly segregated by race. Black folks typically sell to black folks, whites to whites, Latinos to each other. Drug markets are even segregated by class. College students sell to each other. Drug dealing and drug use and drug abuse happens in all communities of all colors, but those who do time for drug crime are overwhelmingly black and brown. Now, if you imagine that these disparities must be because the government is going after the real criminals, the violent offenders, think again. No. The overwhelming majority of people who've been arrested in the drug war have been arrested for nonviolent, relatively minor drug offenses. In fact, in 2005, a study showed that 4 out of 5 drug arrests were just for simple possession. Only 1 out of 5 is for sales or attempted sales. In the 1990s, the period of the greatest escalation of our drug war, nearly 80% of the increase in drug arrests were for marijuana possession, a drug that has now been shown to be less harmful, at least less addictive than alcohol or tobacco, and at least, if not more prevalent, in middle-class white communities and on college campuses as it is in the hood. But by waging this drug war almost exclusively in the hood, we've managed to create this vast new racial undercast in an astonishingly short period of time. And the U.S. Supreme Court, far from resisting the rise of this vast new system, has been facilitating it at every turn. Eviscerating Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches and seizures, making it now nearly impossible to even file a claim for race discrimination in our criminal justice system today. Those racial profiling cases I was bringing 10 years ago can't even be filed in a court of law today. The U.S. Supreme Court has steadily closed the courthouse doors to claims of racial bias at every stage of the criminal justice process, from stops and searches, plea bargaining, and sentencing. In many ways, the U.S. Supreme Court has now effectively immunized this system of mass incarceration from judicial scrutiny for racial bias, much in the same way that the court once rallied to the defense of slavery and Jim Crow in their day. But of course, being ushered into this system with no hope of challenging how you got there is just the beginning, because once you're swept in, you're ushered into that parallel social universe. For the rest of your life, you've got to check that box on employment applications asking, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Knowing your application's going straight to the trash. You can be barred from public housing, private housing, denied even food stamps. What is someone released from prison expected to do? Can't get a job, barred from housing, even food stamps may be off limits to you. Well, apparently what we expect them to do is to pay hundreds or even thousands of dollars in fees, fines, court costs, accumulated back child support. In a growing number of states, you're actually expected to pay back the costs of your imprisonment. And paying back all those fees, fines, and court costs can be a condition of your probation or parole. In fact, if you're one of the lucky few who actually manages to get a job straight out of prison, let's say you get that job, you want to go to work, do right by your family, up to 100% of your wages can be garnished to pay back those fees, fines, court costs, accumulated back child support. What does the system seem designed to do? When you step back and take a look at it as a whole, what does it seem designed to do? It seems designed, in my view, to send folks right back to prison.